Hello everyone, welcome back to third episode of Chakde JavaScript. So this series is meant for people who wanted to excel and become hero and master the front end, back end or the full stack journey. So if you are wanted to learn JavaScript from zero to hero in order to go into any of these streams, this series is for you. And what we are going to cover in this video, we are going to drill down into JavaScript variables and different kind of data type with different concepts of what are the different operators. Very cool, interesting interview questions those are asked, and we are going to practice a lot of those things. So please watch this video till the end. You are going to get a lot of interesting benefit after watching this video. So with that let's get started. When we say like variables, data type, what are these in JavaScript, we will get into that. But overall, what we are going to get in this video, we are going to cover what is var, let, const, nullish operator, optional chaining, basically symbols, object, array, null, undefined, type, you can say conversion, right? You have primitive and non-primitive. A lot of those interesting things we are going to cover in this video. So stay tuned with me till the end and you are going to benefit a lot of those concepts. Now, this video is also part of, you can say, KodeKarma Chakde JavaScript series, where we have also a course which is, again, you can enroll as in free of cost. You don't have to pay anything. You can see there are a lot of benefits. Basically, you get 30 days of JavaScript, where we start from very fundamental to the advanced, where you can also go and create projects based on JavaScript application. So we are going to cover all the advanced concept, all the intermediate. So it's going to be very interesting journey. That's what I wanted to say. You can see that once you go into that, you can see a detailed content, basically, which has a curated examples. You will see other relevant videos from the, you can say, popular YouTubers and the content creator on the internet, not just limited to me. My video will be there, but along with that, other content creator videos will be also available, so that you can get a best learning out of that. The beauty is over here is you will be able to practice the questions related to the concept that are being taught over here. So we will be going into that, and we will be practicing this question at the end. So let's go one at a time and let's see what all basically we are going to cover in this. So with that, let's quickly jump into the concepts of what the hell this variables and data types in JavaScript are. So at a high level, if I have to help you to understand, there are multiple concepts that I'm going to cover in a small definition, a small way to remember what are these variable, data type, what are the type, you can say conversion basically happens, what are the different operators we have, right? So let's try to understand from a very simple example, which is, you consider JavaScript variables as jars, where you have a plastic jar, you have a steel jar, you may have, you can say, rubber jar, and a different kind of a jar, which is like you have a var, let, const kind of a different containers you have, where you can keep the data. Now, the data that you keep is called data types. They are different kind of data type. Primitive, like you can keep your booleans, your strings, right? Which are like you can keep sugar, salt, and all sort of thing. They are non-primitive, which is object, you can say arrays. There are something like functions, which are, they don't persist in that particular container. You will find a reference in that particular container, like where to look after those objects or the item in that particular, like cookbook. So you will not get the recipes over, you won't get the ingredient, you will get a reference of the recipes that you have to basically leverage over there, right? So type coercion basically, or conversion basically, in this case, you will see what it meant by. It is like a feature which helps you to auto convert from one form to the other form. Example, you have a ice that can be converted into stream, that can be converted into water. So these are different form of same ice. Similarly, you have a number which can be in number format, it can convert into string format. So these are type conversion probably that happens, right? We are going to cover that. Then we have something called operators, right? Now, when we say operator, they are different kind of a operator. Those operators are like, you are a chef. Now, as a chef, you have to mix some of those things. You have to basically add on some of those stuff. Basically, you have to measure some quantity, and based on that, you have to prepare your recipe. All these operators are going to help you to prepare your dish, final dish. That is what we are going to cover in very depth. So at a high level, if you understand that, let's get down into more details. Basically, let's start with what are the different type of storage we have. There are use cases of different storage that I'm going to get into detail in lot more detail, but at a high level, let's try to understand. We have something called var. Again, var is a container in which you can store the information. I will be showing you the example. Similarly, let is a container you can store the variable. Const is a container you can store the variable, right? Now, what are these container and what values basically we can store? Let's go and try to see one at a time. So I'm going to open the console. All the code that you are going to write in the initial days, we will be using console to do that. We don't need any ID in order to perform that. So don't worry around that. So we will be having only info over here. So let's do info. So now example, you are containing a container which is called A. So now what this A is a container in which you can store some value. Example 1. In our case, if I will say I have a box, in that box, I wanted to keep anything. Maybe I wanted to keep a dress, right? So what we have a box, which is a container, and this is a data that we are storing. Now the data type over here, if you notice, it is a string. It's a string. Over here, if you notice what we are storing a number over here. So you have a container and you have a data that you are storing, and every data will have some data type. It can be string, it can be number, it can be other kind of a storage that we will be talking about. Similarly, you have another kind of a container which is called like I can say you have B and I'm going to keep something called false over here, right? Now try to understand. Similar to how we are creating a container using var, you can create a container using let as well. There are differences between the container that you create using var and let. I will be talking about those things as well. But before that, I just wanted to tell you there is one more type of a container. Example, if I say pi, it's like 3.14 kind of a thing. It's like I created a container which cannot change, like your sprinkler box. So use and throw, your pen that you get, basically you write, once it is consumed, you throw that particular pen altogether, right? So those kind of a constant, like you can consume the value, but you cannot rewrite the value inside that particular container. That is what the const kind of a container is. We will be seeing the difference between the let, var, const in much detail, but before we jump into that, let's try to understand very simple definitions from here. So in case of var, when we are writing something like, I can convert, okay, when we are writing something called a is equal to 1 and we say a is equal to 2, this is something which is valid in case of var, but it is not valid in case of let. So let will throw an error saying that, boss, what you are trying to do, you have already declared a variable, you are redeclaring that variable, which is not possible. You cannot do this. This is not possible at all. This is not possible in case of let. This is possible in case of let. The other use case, let's talk about the const. In const, if you have assigned a value like, say, suppose your pi is 3.14, and if you even try to rewrite the value, redeclare the value like pi is equal to maybe 3.1133 something, or probably you try to assign the values again, maybe not declaring, but you are reassigning the value. Example, I'm saying 3.14 kind of a thing. So both of these things are not possible. This is also invalid and this is invalid. Reason being, the const itself says that I'm constant. Once I'm defined, once I'm declared and initialized, no one can basically come and change the value. This is not practically possible. Now let's take a couple of more examples. Basically, in case of var, I can write something like b is equal to 1 and I can declare it afterward. This is feasible in case of var. Like your initialization can happen before your declaration, but in case of let, this is not possible. You cannot write something like this. This is not possible. It will throw the error and say that, boss, you cannot basically do that. And similarly in const also, you cannot basically do this job. It is not possible at all. So this is not feasible in case of the const as well. So remember, these are the high level differences between when you use the var, let, const kind of a thing. I am going to help you to understand hosting, temporary dead zone, these kind of a concept in the next video. So I will be showing you a lot of examples. We will be playing with a lot of those examples, but till that time, just remember at a high level, these are the major differences that you see. So you got the answer. One thing, if you have to use between var, let, const, it is recommended you use let and const instead of a var, because the chances of doing the error in case of var is very high. And hence in ES6, the latest version, basically let and const was created, which is going to help you to avoid doing mistakes basically in your coding. Perfect. Now, if you understand this, you can basically go check out those examples over here as well. So you will see great examples for using var, let, const over here. Now, once you understand those examples, you can come back and let's talk about data types. So data types, as I talked about, is a data, different kind of data. Now, it can be liquid format, it can be solid format, it can be semi-liquid, semi-granular, so you can say format, it can be in format of gas. Anything as you think in a container what you are going to keep. Similarly, in case of JavaScript, we categorize them in a primitive and a non-primitive data type. Now, you have to understand primitive is like you open the box, you will get the data content inside the box itself. Now, as I said, it can be, I will be talking about all of those examples. Non-primitive is like you will not get the data inside that box itself. You will get the reference of the container of the place where the data is being stored. You will not get the actual data. You will get the reference of the data inside this particular box. Hence, it is non-primitive. Array, you will get the reference of the array. You will get the reference of an object. You will get reference of function. Now, let's quickly talk about with some examples what are the string, numbers, boolean, null, undefined, and symbols kind of a thing. Let's understand from examples over here. So if we take about example like number, I say like name or string, basically I say name is Chirag, right? This is a string data type. Similarly, if I talk about maybe is teacher, right? So I will say true. So this is boolean basically, right? Similarly, I say I will be using let, which is more recommended instead of using the var. So talking about age, no one talks about age. Okay, let me tell that, right? So 30, 31. So this the age basically. So this is the number basically that you see over here, right? Similarly, if you talk about other primitive data type, example, if I say address. So right now I'm not defining any address over here, What does it mean? Which is very, very important. So right now the value of address is undefined. We have just declared it. We have not assigned any value, which means you are undefined at this moment. So if you try to access the address, you will see it is undefined. Similarly, if I talk about, there is another data type which is called null. And if I write something called maybe GF, I will say null. I don't, right? Where I'm explicitly saying it's like that GF may be there or may not be. There is no GF altogether, right? So hence you see it is null. So value null means like you can make it boolean also. Null is saying that no, it's not there altogether, right? It's empty. I'm explicitly saying it is empty. So null is a special kind of an object which says that I do exist, but my value is empty. Where undefined is a blank value which says that I even do not exist. No, anyone have declared a variable, but no one have assigned a value till now. So that is something which is very important, and it is asked in interview. Like, what is the difference between null and undefined? Note it down. In case you are not aware of it, I will recommend note it down and let me know what you understand in the comment, which is very important over here. Now, talking about, you understand about boolean, null, undefined. Let's talk about symbols. Symbols are very powerful, guys. Symbols are very, very powerful. Now, let me help you where we use symbols. You have a complex application. Now, you understand in your complex application, you have variables that are created. Now, people can create variables with the same name. So, if you have variable with the same name, there is always going to be override that can happen. Especially when you create variable at a global level. Example, I create a global level variable like a, I can accidentally create another variable maybe called 20. Now you see your window dot a is now 20. So people may not be doing in the same function at the same place, but may be doing at different places in your code bases. The problem is, unintentionally a person may change a global variable or a variable reference which a person never thought there will be a key or a value in such cases, right? That makes the life complicated. Now, what you can do, even I want a variable name called a, I can create a unique identifier using a. How? Using symbols. Let me show you. If I say let symbol 1, and I'm going to say I'm creating a, you can say, new symbol, and I'm going to say my symbol is a over here, right? Similarly, I'm going to create another symbol, which is again a symbol on top of variable called a, or a key called a. In this case, oh, my bad, it's a symbol, not a constructor. In both the cases, we will see an interesting thing. Let's try to compare. Is my, first of all, is a equal to a? Yes. But the symbol that we created out of a, is that same? You see, no, these are not same. So the values, if normal keys were compared, a is equal to a, yes, but the symbol that you created out of a 2 times, both are unique. So this is a different symbol and this is a different identifier for the same key. I will help you with the use cases. Very cool use case I can help you, which I leveraged. I have to create a model with a unique identifier. Now, especially in React and all sort of cases, a unique identifier. Now, me sitting in a very complex application, say suppose at a Microsoft level, any application, there are thousands of components. There are a lot of developers who are basically writing the code. Now, how I will be predicting that this variable is not rewritten by another, consumed by another, you can say, developer at a global space level? Very difficult. I can accidentally override someone else variable, right? So in such cases, what I will prefer, I will create a symbol out of that particular key so that it is always unique. Now, even you will try to see these symbols do exist, but you will not be able to override others unless you have a reference of that symbol. Like if you have to really override, you have to use this reference in order to override the value, else you won't be able to override the values. So access of exact reference of that symbol is needed in this particular case. Awesome. So this was at a high level. So again, I will recommend you go try out these examples. As I said, in data type you have strings, numbers, it can be decimal numbers. Null is like undefined itself, right? Undefined in the sense it's explicitly saying it's a null object. BF, like undefined, you have a spatial symbols that you are creating. Now let's talk about some of the other interesting data type over here, which are non-primitive data type. Now, when we say non-primitive data type, arrays. In other programming language, array is a, you can say, collection of similar data type in a sequential fashion. That too predefined number of items in an array in most of other programming language. But in case of JavaScript, it's not the same case. In JavaScript, arrays are a bit different. It is a collection of data, but collection of any data type. Now, as I talk about, when I am creating an array example, I am saying my let array is equal to, it can be any data type. Very, very important, guys. Which is, it can be one, it can be null, it can be undefined, it can be another array also, 1, 2. It can be any other thing. Example, it can be false. So what we are doing over here, we are creating a collection of data of any data type. And very important, you don't have to define their length in the initial case phase itself. So that is very important. Rest other thing remains the same. It also has indexes. It also has sequences. What does it mean? If you have to see, it has indexes. This is called 0th index. This is called first index. This is called second index. And this is called n-1 index. Like if the number of item is n, then this will be n-1 index. Now the beauty is you can access using indexes. I can access example, say 2. So this is 2, 0, 1, 2. And similarly, if I say 4, you will see it's an array 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and this is 5. Remember, number of items was 6, hence 6 minus 1 is 5 over here. So you can read the values, you can similarly write the values. Example, I wanted to write the value at third, which is undefined. I wanted to make it say that new value. So once I say that, you will see I can assign the value in an object, in an array, and hence the value got updated. So these are some glimpses I'm going to give you how you can basically read the data and write the data in an array. At a high level, how you can basically access the indexes. We are going to learn these everything in detail in upcoming videos, so don't worry around that. So everything is going to be very, very detailed, and I'm going to also bring lot of you can say interview question in between. So stay tuned and be ready with those questions, hidden gems in between the videos. So yep, let's talk about objects. What the hell this object are? Objects are very important and very beautiful in case of JavaScript. The objects, especially when we talk about, let I have obj1 example, I will say my biodata, right? It is an object. Now, instead of creating, saying that, hey, do I have, you can say gf, what's my name, what's my address, what's my salary, and all sort of thing in different variables, because all of these things can be combined and be kept together in a key pair value. Hence, we prefer to keep as an object, which is key pair value. Key, remember what I'm trying to say, remember it very carefully. Key is always a string in case an object. Key is always a string in case of object. Never ever do that mistake. I will be showing some example. Let's start with a couple of them. I'm saying what's the name, probably it's Chirag Goyal. What's the address, or probably before I go to address, maybe age RT1 GF null skills. Remember, it can be list of, you can say list of arrays. Values can be any data type. Now I will say JS, React, system design, right? You have DSA, you have a hell lot of things basically I can talk about over here. Now, similarly, it can be another object also. What does it mean? It can be another object which I say that, hey, the city is a Bangalore. Another key pair value over here. Very, very important. So it's a key and value. Key is always a string. I will show you why I am saying that. If I take two key as in one, which is one, and second as a string explicitly saying one. So maybe I will change the order, something like this. So try to notice the final object which is created. When I print biodata, you will see there is only key which is called 1:1. It does not have a string wala version. Reason being, this has overridden the another one because it tried to convert a string into, you can say number, into a string format, and it converted into string. There was already a string, it override the existing one, and hence this is a string format, got the value as in 1 over here. So first type conversion happened, it converted into string, and second it override the value of an existing one. Now it's a very simple. If you wanted to access the data, you can use the dot annotation. Example, I can say what is the name, you can access. You can actually define, you can rewrite any of the value. Example, I can say 32, right? So this is the way you can override the values as well in this particular case. So that's a beauty that exists with the objects. So you can read the value, you can write the value. We are going to understand the objects in much detail in upcoming videos. At a high level, it's a key pair value. Keys are always a string. Value can be any data type. This is the way you read the data, and this is the way you write the data. Now rest everything in upcoming, you can see, videos. Don't worry around that. Glimpses I am giving you before diving into those respective video sessions where we have those array object function in much detail. Perfect. Now the other thing is basically functions. What the hell these functions are? You have to understand. You are maybe using definitely functions in other programming language. At a high level, what are functions? Functions are the set of instructions combined together and given a name. So like if I have to ask the Ramu Kaka to prepare the tea, I don't have to tell Ramu Kaka the same instruction every time, saying that Ramu Kaka, take a pan, take water, take tea leaf, sugar, coriander, and all sort of thing. What I can simply say that, hey Ramu Kaka, ginger, coriander, not coriander, ginger. So hey Ramu Kaka, basically prepare a tea, right? Those kind of instructions can be given using functions, like instead of telling the steps that need to be followed. So in this particular case, how the function is basically written, function is a keyword, then you can give any instruction, like I'm saying make a sum. Now the beauty of these you can say instructions are, you can pass some dynamic values also. I can say Ramu Kaka, prepare ginger tea, prepare 2 ginger tea. That could be my instructions which I am giving, right? Now I can create some variables. Example, I will create total. I can do some computation over here, right? Finally, the beauty is I can also return the value out of that, which means I'm not just asking Ramu Kaka to perform some activities, but also once the tea is prepared, please bring it to me. That is what basically the power of these functions are. It can take dynamic values and it can return a value also. Those are power. Now, whenever I have to call, I can simply say that 1, 2. This is how we initiate any function. So we created a function and we initiated a function using this technique. Again, as I'm saying, this is just a glimpses of those functions. We are going to get into these detail, different type of functions, anonymous functions, named function, arrow function, everything in upcoming videos. Perfect. Now you can see that you can go through the examples of object, functions, arrays basically over here. Now the beauty is, let's try to understand their type, you can say conversion that happens. What exactly that does it mean? So there are two type conversion basically that happen, right? What are those? One is implicit and second is explicit. Implicit is like whenever I try to compare something, it try to auto convert some types and try to compare them. Explicit is I got some functions, so I can use those functions in order to convert from one type to the other type explicitly on demand whenever I need it. So implicit you do behind the scene whenever you are executing, I don't have to interfere. Explicit is I have to explicitly tell what kind of a data type it has to be used into. Now let's take an example of multiple type conversion that happens, right? So example, so if you see the implicit type conversion in such cases, so you have a, if you notice the year is 2, which is a number. Now I have to write a message, I have to concatenate the message in JavaScript, which is some string, then a number, and then another string. So ultimately it should become, we have been together for 2 years, right? This is what a statement has to be formed. So this is a number, this is a string, and this is a string. Who converts this number into string is a implicit. JavaScript internally converted this number into string so that it can finally be a string format. Explicit type conversion is like, this is a number, this is a string, and before I do a summation with 2, I will convert this string into number so that it gives me 5. Else, if I don't convert it, I can show you what kind of outcome you will get. So if I'm adding 5 to 2, you will see it got 52, right? And if I write 2 to example 5 to 2 over here, so you see it got 52 over here. So hence it automatically internally does the type conversion. I could have done it better where I could have said, please convert into number and then basically try to merge it, which is add it. And hence you see it's a explicit type conversion that happens. There are some confusion, there are some interesting stories that happens, and this is one of the famous interview questions basically which is being asked. So I'm going to help you with very interesting concepts. An interview question in JavaScript, one of them is when I try to compare 0 with something called false, it says that true. What the hell happened over here? What the hell happened over here is something interesting. So you try to understand. The string 0 is trying to be converted into a number which becomes a 0 and compared to a falsy value over here, right? So in this case you will see you convert string into number and then basically you try to compare with the other thing. What I meant by, in such cases, JavaScript, whenever you are using double equality kind of a thing, JavaScript internally try to do the type conversion and try to convert from one type to the another type before comparing the values. Like it says that I cannot compare the boolean with the string, hence I will try to convert both of them to the closest one and then try to basically compare them. And that brings to another interesting concepts that I'm going to touch upon, which is called different kind of operator that exist in JavaScript. Guys, each and everything that I'm going to talk now are interview question. These are something that most of the developer get stuck and they are not able to perform things appropriate. They lot of bugs basically comes from these concepts. So please note, you have to practice all of the questions that I'm going to talk about, and similarly keep on helping me what did you understand from each concept in the comment. So I really want you to write down what do you understand from these concepts with some examples in the comment, because these are very important interview questions. Don't worry, I have some interesting questions for you. So we have Babu Bhaiya who is going to ask you questions just after these concepts. So be with me for a couple of more minutes. Okay, so let's get into one operator at a time. So first operator that we are going to talk about, which is double equality. Double equality operator says that, boss, I'm going to compare two values, left and right values. Now, when I say values, I really mean values. Example, if I try to compare 1 with string 1, you see, this is also valid, this is also valid, because the value over here and the value over here are same. If I try to compare 0 with false, it's true. If I try to compare 0 string with false, these are also true. So let me help you couple of more interesting things before we get started. There is another concept that has to be understood. There are something called nullish values in JavaScript. Nullish values, guys. Everyone in the house, please understand nullish values. What are those nullish values? 0, false, null, undefined, empty string. All of these are called nullish values. All of these are called nullish values, which means all of them are kinda equivalent basically in JavaScript if you compare from a value perspective, and which means all are falsy values in that case, right? Nullish values, falsy values, that is what we call it. Now, if you understand, now if you try to see this is also false, this is also false, the values wise you will be able to compare and you understand the. Now this is not same. If you see 1 and 1, no, these are not same, because you cannot convert 1 into a digit basically out of box. No, that doesn't happen. So don't think like when I say auto conversion happens, word will be converted into number. No, boss, that is not a type conversion, right? That doesn't happen. This will definitely be false. Now there is always some confusion when you have to compare these values, like, oh, in which case it will be true, in which case it will be false. It is too confusing. Like example, if I say is null equal to undefined true, and if I say, hey, my null equal to 1 false, like very confusing things that we get basically when you have to compare the values, right? It is easy in many of the cases, but many of the cases it really become complicated. So what do you have a solution for that? Instead of just comparing the values at two sides, you should also compare their types, which means this is a number and this is a boolean. How a number and boolean can be same? It cannot be same. It cannot be same, right? And how do you get that? Instead of using two, you can say equality operator, we should use 3 equality operator. Let's try to do it. 3 equality operator, this is 100% true. If we try to use this, which is one is number and string, it will say false. Let's try to have another one, which is number and boolean with 3 operator. You say false. Similarly, when we say string and falsy value over here, false with 3 operator, you see it is false. All the things where we were getting confusing answers, now we can confidently say that because the types at two end are not same, hence these two you can say values cannot be same. So what I meant by, so these triple equality checks 2 things. One is value and second is their data type. So if you understood this, then you guys are champ. Perfect. So at a high level, this is one of the very important interview question, guys. Don't take it lightly. So this is equality operator where 2 equal and 3 equal. 2 equal, just value comparison. 3 equal, value and you can say types comparison. Awesome. Now, if you understand this, now I have a very interesting problem statement which is related to logical operator, which is and or. Trust me, guys, most of the people, most of the developer does the mistake in this operator. And let me see if you says, hey, I won't, I'm the champ, we can try it out. Now, couple of questions I have for you before I explain how this basically works under the hood. First, if I say you have a and 1 and 2 kind of thing and probably false, what do you think? What is going to be the outcome? Everyone in the house, put in the comment. What is going to be the outcome of this? 1 and 2 and false. Let's see how many of you basically can solve this. Now, if pause it, try to put in the comment, solve it, try to put in the comment and explain why you think that is a solution. You see, it's a false. Many people may be saying all values are not true, hence it is false. Okay, I understand. Let me do something interesting. So I'm going to make it 1 and 0 and false. Now tell me what is going to be the outcome in the comment. Let's see how many of you can. And you have to explain, guys. Very, very important. You have to explain. Now, if you see the outcome is 0. What the hell? How come 0? Okay. Now I'm going to make it, say, suppose empty string and 0 and false. Now the outcome is empty string. There's something fishy going on. And if you don't understand that, don't worry, I'm here. So, okay, let me do one more thing before we jump into the conclusion. When I say 1, 2, 3 and I execute it, you see the outcome is 3. Let's try to understand what happened in all of those cases. Now, before I help you to understand a concept of Dadaji. What we are going to say, and is like a Dadaji. Dadaji is like your grandfather, right? So, Bade Papa, grandfather, which is very strict. He comes and says that, boss, every child has to be very disciplined and has to be always trustworthy. If anyone of them is not trustworthy, is actually a falsy value, I will go and shout out to the world saying that this particular child is not doing good. He's not well enough. He's not settled, blah, blah, blah. Right? That is what your Dadaji does. And if everyone does the good job, Dadaji, being Dadaji, he has to find out one person in order to shout out and say that my child is this and that. He will see if everyone is doing good. He will pick the last person and say that, hey, this is the person, this is the child who doesn't, is not good at my basically family, right? So Dadaji has to go and basically pick any one name, especially he will try to pick first falsy value. If no, then the last value and go and shout out to the world that this kid is not doing good. Now, let's see. If you see, this is a truthy value, which is 1. Dadaji will move on. Check the second person. This is also truthy value. Dadaji will say, okay, I will not pick your name. Dadaji goes to the last. It is also a truthy value, but it is the last value. Now, Dadaji doesn't have any option. Dadaji is going to go and shout out this name saying that, hey, this kid is not doing good. He has to change. He's not disciplined. He's blah, 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 right? Similarly, let's try to go to this example. He goes first one, truthy value, move on. Second truthy value, move on. Hey, got a falsy value. The moment Dadaji find anyone who is culprit is going to go and shout out the name. Similarly over here, truthy value, move on. Hey, I got a something which is not going wrong, right? This is falsy value. The moment I find the falsy value, I'm going to shout out. Similarly, if you see, the first value itself is a falsy value. The moment I get the falsy value, I'm going to go and shout out. So empty. So unless I get the falsy value or I reach to the end, I am going to pick one of them. First falsy value or the last kid. So that I can go and say that, hey, this kid is the spoiler in my family, right? So I hope you got the idea around how this works. Now I have a similar examples that I wanted to basically cite out related to your OR example. Let me see how many of you can answer this. So let's see. Okay, so what do you think is going to be the answer? So if you know that, put in the comment and we will talk around that if you really understand what is the answer over here. So let's see. So it's a 3. Oh, horrible. How come? if I make it 1, you see it's 1. Oh, wow. And then if I say it is example, I can give any value. Example, I will consider it as an 5. You'll see it got 5. And if in case I have all falsy values, what will happen? You got null. Now, your or operator is opposite to your dadaji, which means you have dadiji, which is your grandmother. Now, grandmother is opposite to your grandfather. She is so humble. So she is looking for any positive symbols in the kid. Anyone who is doing the good job. Anyone who is not a falsy value. The moment she finds the anyone who is a truthy value, she is going to go and appreciate that person, a kid, basically everyone in the society, right? So now if you try to see falsy value, ignore. Dadi is very humble. She doesn't notice anything which is going wrong. Goes to another one which is, hey, this is again falsy value. I will move on. I got a positive value which is non-nullish value, non-falsy value, and I will say, oh, this is the kid which is doing a great job. Similarly, move on. Falsy I will ignore. I got a truthy value. Oh, this kid is doing great job. I got the first kid itself doing the great job. Oh, wow, let's do that. Now, similar to Dadaji, she's going to move on, ignore, and she has a opposite habit as compared to Dadaji. Dadaji has to find one culprit at least, and Dadiji has to find at least one person who's doing a good job. If she's not able to find any person who's non-falsy or doing a good job, she's going to pick the last one and going to announce saying that, hey, you are doing a good job, right? So that's a nature of Dadiji, your grandmother. Perfect. I hope you got this. In case you got this Dadaji and Dadiji, which is grandmother and grandfather, basically, do let me in the comment if you really love this. If you love this story, I will bring more such stories so that you can remember forever. And do shout out if you love the Dadaji and Dadiji story everywhere in the internet. That will really help me to get to know that you are loving the content and the examples that I'm trying to bring. With that, let's try to go into a couple of quick another questions basically that we have. The other question is your ternary operator. When I say ternary operator are very straightforward operator that we have, which is okay. Ternary operator, okay, that's okay. So ternary operator basically says that if I have a, so it has 3 parts. It has true and it will print, this will print when there is a false. So as simple as, guys, try to understand this. This is very, very simple. It says that, boss, this is my condition. This is going to be executed when it is true value, and this is going to be executed when you have a false value. That's all it says. So you put your condition, whatever the value of condition is. If it is true, I will execute this. If it is false, I will execute this. I will show you a quick example. Basically, so try to notice, if I say false, then the second one. If I say true, example, then it is going to be the first one. Now I can put a condition over here. Example is 1 equal to 1. Because this value is true, you are going to execute the first item. So now it can be any damn thing. I can say if 1 equal to 1, which is, again, this is false because this is a string and this will convert into another string. These two strings are not same. You will see the false is actually executed over here. When I say false, it can be in any complex statement, not necessarily a string. It can be any complex statement over here. So remember, this ternary operator basically says that if it is true, this condition I'm going to execute. If it is false, this statement basically I'm going to execute. So this is a truthy statement. This is the falsy statement execution that is going to happen. At a high level, if you understand, let me help you with very, very important and popular approach that we have. So there is another operator which is called Nullish. You can say operator, where it is going to help you to identify and backfill the values, default the values whenever it finds the 2 nullish values. What are those 2 nullish values? I'm going to help you out. So example, there are use cases where I want one of the value to default to something. Example, I'm going to say default. In this case, it is not going to default because the value was there. Now, let me take this example. If I say I have a number or a state, default state. I have a state, I will say. So I'm simply going to say if my state is there, success, well and good. If the state is not there, then make it default. My intent is this, guys. My intent is completely this. Now I'm going to help you to understand what are the different things. What if I have, you can say failure. So you will see your state is actually failure because it will never go to default because the truthy value was there. Now, what if I have a state something called empty value? What do you think, guys? Will it go to the default or it is going to be empty? It is going to be default because this is nullish value and it is going to the next value which is default. So in this case, you will see your state will become default. Your state will become default. Or similarly, if you have something called false, your state is going to be default. Similarly, when you have undefined, your state is going to be default. If you have something called 0, even in such cases, your state is going to be default. I don't want it to happen. When I said it is empty string, why it got to default? When I said I have something called false, why it is going to be default? You can say default. When I'm saying it is 0, why it is going to be default? I'm passing some value, right? When I'm passing some value, it should not go to the default cases. In such cases, what do? You don't use the OR operator. OR operator makes life difficult. You have to write now checks if it is explicitly null or undefined, then you make it default. Such cases, what you use nullish operator. I can quickly help you to understand what does it mean. For example, instead of OR, if I use this nullish operator, you will see your state is still empty. It will not go to default. If I use for or 0 and I use nullish operator, you will see the state is 0, not default in this case. Similarly, if I use for false, instead of OR, if I use nullish operator, you will see the state is false. But for use cases where you have undefined, you will see it will become default. Use cases where you have null explicitly, it will become default. So remember, your nullish, this operator basically is used, is going to be defaulting the value when you are actually using undefined or null. If the value is not undefined and null, it is going to take the exact value. It can be empty string, it can be 0, it can be false, it can be any damn string or the variable it is. Unless it is null or undefined, it is not going to default it. So that's a beauty. It says that if you are not assigning any value, that I'm going to consider. If you are assigning any value, then boss, I'm happy. I'm not going to do that. So that's a beauty of this nullish operator. If you like it, if you are not aware of this nullish operator, do let me in the comment, because this is very, very powerful and used in production application to make your code much cleaner, where you don't have to write a lot of if else condition basically in order to make it happen. You use just 2 simple QT question mark and your job is done over here. Awesome. If you understand this concept also, let me help you another optional chaining which helps you to avoid errors in an object handling. What does it mean? Let me help you. We created our biodata, if you remember, right? So this is the biodata we had. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to access some data from here. Like, how do we access biodata dot maybe name? I am able to access the name. I have to access the address. I will say address. I'm able to access the address. Now I have to address the city. I can say address.city, like a.b.c. I'm going deeper. So I'm able to access city also. What if, example, I'm going to call it biodata dot some random value called spouse. So it is undefined. Spouse does not exist, the information over here, right? I cannot access. What if someone wanted to do something called spouse.name, where spouse does not exist, but you are trying to access the name of a spouse? What will happen? It will throw the error saying that, boss, you're trying to access the spouse name where spouse does not exist, which was undefined. This is not valid altogether. You cannot do this. Now, in such cases, what is the solution? What is the alternate? What are the ways basically you can leverage? You have something called optional chaining. What does it mean? I can be cautious saying that some people in their biodata may have their spouse, some people may not have. So I will be cautious and use this comma operator over here, which is comma dot, which means if this spouse exists, then try to check the name. If a spouse does not exist, do not basically try to check the name. So you will see you can be handled very diligently, and you will get undefined saying that, hey, I did not go over here. This was undefined and returned from here itself. So that's a beauty that you get with the optional chaining. Like if you put this, you make it safeguard saying that I am trying to access deeper object, but in case my parent does not exist, I will not fail, I will not bail, I will not even going to compute after that. The moment I get anything undefined or null kind of thing, I will return from there and my life is sorted. So you see the beauty of your optional chaining, and this is again very, very powerful. So if you understand that, so what you have to do, first job, you go and basically try to cover the interview questions from here. So there are many questions. You go to any of the question and try to read what it basically says. So try to understand the problem statement, try to understand the use case, and try to fix the use case basically which is given over here, so that there is no issues between both the parties that you are seeing over here. So fix it. Then if you don't understand, you can go into the solution and see the actual approach. You will get to know what to use and when to use basically, and you will have the fair understanding of the solution over here. Perfect. You can have discussions with people basically over here, so you will have a basically a great understanding, and you can collab with other people. So go attempt, you can submit. Once you submit the right answer, you will see you will get a brownie point. Let's try to do that. So basically I'm just trying to see. So basically it says that, hey, I should, so basically in this case I have inside block should log orange, which is orange, and outside block should basically log apple. So apple is coming from outside and orange is basically coming from here. So this is a block scope and this is basically a function scope. Where is the function scope? So we should be able to access this. Let's see if we can. So if I try to run this, so my test cases are passing. Awesome. Let's try to submit it. And let me see if this goes perfect. It says that, hey, question completed, and I'm able to complete this basically in 3 attempts, and this is great. Awesome. Perfect. So guys, we are able to complete one of the question. So similarly, go read out the other problem statement and try to basically complete as much as you can. If you understand that, now what you have to do, you have to answer these questions, basically their answers in the comment, guys. So let me know in the comment. You can post their solutions basically in the social media also, and you can tag me. So first question, what is going to be the outcome between 0 and your nullish operator basically with the 0 string? What is going to be if you have 0 or a string over here? What is going to be the outcome when you have 0 and a 0 as a string over here? When you have something called profile and you have a name, and I'm trying to use user.contact.email where contact does not exist in the user basically, right? What is going to be the outcome over here? Now, if it is not undefined, how I can basically fix so that it does not at least give me the error. So that is what you have to basically do. If I try to compare 5 with triple equality, what is going to be the outcome? You have to explain the reason basically in the comment. So let's see how many of you can basically explain the reason in the comment. And I would love to basically put all those questions to you. So Babu, you remember Babu Bhaiya? Ab teri bari. So solve it and let me know in the comment. So guys, a humble request. I'm going to create a lot of such great, you can say, content. Only request is please go shout out as much as possible. Share with your friend. Trust me, this is the only JavaScript series that you have to basically follow. It will make you from 0 to hero. I can bet you can go and crack any interview. You won't be stuck in any development that you are doing in your projects. It may be a small company or a big company, whatever it is. I am going to bet you that this is going to be the one on the only JavaScript course that you need, which is Chakde JavaScript. So go and please make a buzz, make a shout out basically on the internet. So you have something called Chakde JavaScript. So please help me to spread this as much as possible. Thanks a lot for all the love and trust that you have in me, guys. I'm trying to put all the efforts to make this video, to make this series the most popular series on the internet. See you with that in the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.